Please, don't let me fall. That was the first thing he heard. A whisper carried by the heat, barely alive, drifting through the still air like a ghost that refused to leave. Jonah Hale reined in his horse at the fence line, the animal snorting under the punishing sun. The land stretched flat and endless around him, a sea of dry earth and silence. Nothing moved, not the windmill creaking behind him, not the crows circling above. Only that voice, fragile as dust. Then he saw her. Half buried in the dirt, tangled in rope and torn fabric, a woman lay still. The sun had burned her skin raw, her wrists were blistered and bleeding. The desert had started to claim her, but not yet. Jonah swung down slow from his saddle, boots sinking deep into red dirt. He'd seen bodies before. Too many. Once upon a time, hunting men was his trade. But this one was different. She was breathing, barely. Her cracked lips moved. They left me. Jonah knelt, pressing 2 fingers against her throat. A pulse, faint but fighting. She was still here. He hesitated, eyes narrowing. Then he did something none of us expected. He lifted her. Carefully. Like she was something that might shatter if he breathed wrong. Dust rose around them, swirling in the heat like smoke from some old sin. And for the first time in years, Jonah didn't hear the ghosts that usually followed him. He heard only one heartbeat, and it wasn't his. The barn waited at the edge of the land, a place built from sorrow and memory. He carried her inside and laid her down on an old wool blanket, the same one his wife used to wrap newborn colts when the cold came early. The air was still, heavy with hay and regret. Jonah poured rainwater from a tin cup over her hands. Her fingers twitched, not trust, just instinct. Easy now, he said quietly. You're safe here. But he wasn't sure that was true. Not out here. Not with men like the ones who'd left her to die still breathing somewhere in the heat. Her eyes fluttered open, green beneath the dust, not bright, not pleading. Just tired. Why'd you stop? She asked. You could have kept riding. Jonah looked at his hands, scarred, calloused, made for hurting. Didn't seem right. She gave a brittle laugh that turned into a cough. Nothing out here seems right. He turned away before she could see what that laugh did to him. When he came back with clean water, she was shaking. He covered her shoulders with his coat, then crossed the barn to the old cedar chest in the corner. He hadn't opened it since his wife died. Inside were clothes, a cotton blouse, a brown skirt, folded neat as a prayer. He laid them beside her. They're clean, he said quietly. They were hers. The air hung heavy between them. She swallowed, her voice thin but steady. They called me Eve. Jonah nodded. That's a good name. Means beginning. She stared at the ceiling. Feels more like an ending. Then, from somewhere far off, a whistle, 3 short notes, drifted across the wind. Jonah's body went still. That wasn't random. He knew that signal. Once, he'd used it himself, a message between men who came to finish what they'd started. They're coming, he murmured. And when he turned back, Eve saw it, the old bounty hunter waking behind his calm eyes. By midday, the sun had teeth. Jonah saddled his horse slow, scanning the ridge where the whistle came from. Eve stood in the doorway, wrapped in his wife's blouse. It hung loose on her frame, but it made her look alive again. You don't have to stay, she said. He cinched the saddle tight. Wasn't planning to run. They'll kill you, she warned. Maybe, he said. But not before I ask them why. She stepped closer, pain etched in every movement. There's 3 of them, she whispered. They take what they want. Then they laugh about it. Jonah looked at her, really looked. She wasn't crying anymore. She was angry. Maybe that was what had kept her alive. He tipped his hat. If they come, you stay inside. Don't make a sound. And if you don't come back. He gave a half smile. Then you wait till the wind stops. He rode out slow. The windmill turned behind him, creaking like it was praying under its breath. They showed up at dusk, 3 riders, dusty, smug, and cruel. The kind of men who'd learned that the law only mattered to the slow. Their horses drank from Jonah's trough while they spat tobacco into the dirt. The leader grinned, showing a chipped tooth. "Evenin', neighbor. We're lookin' for a runaway. Mean little thing. Always lyin', always trouble." Jonah leaned on the fence, quiet. "Ain't seen anyone but my own shadow." "That's so," one with a broken knuckle said. "Mind if we check your barn?" Jonah nodded. "Be my guest." They shared smirks, thought they'd found easy prey. Inside, Eve held her breath in the loft. Their boots crunched on straw. Laughter, sharp and mean, echoed off the rafters. Jonah followed them in, his hands loose at his sides. The leader swung a lantern toward the stalls, empty. Then he stopped. A blouse hung on a peg near the door. Clean, folded. His grin turned cold. "Funny thing, rancher. You got a woman's blouse here, but no woman." Jonah said nothing. "Maybe she's hidin' under your mercy." Eve bit her lip until she tasted blood. Jonah's hand twitched near his hip, then stilled. "Come back at dawn," he said evenly. "Bring your sheriff, if you've got one." They laughed all the way out the door. "Now stay with me, because what happens next changes everything." As the sun dropped and the air cooled, Jonah waited. He sat on the porch, rifle across his knees, listening to the windmill squeak. Inside, Eve watched from the window, her heart pounding loud enough to drown the crickets. When the night split open with the crack of a twig, Jonah didn't move. He knew that sound. The coward step, the man who comes back alone for proof. The barn door creaked. A lantern flickered inside. Jonah rose, silent as a shadow, and walked toward the light. The broken-knuckle man stood there, pistol trembling in his hand. "You shouldn't have lied," he hissed. Jonah stepped closer. "You shouldn't have lived." The pistol lifted, Jonah moved faster. He knocked the barrel aside, grabbed the man's collar, slammed him into the wall. The lantern crashed, fire spilling over straw. For a moment, both froze, then the flames leapt. Jonah hit him once, clean and hard. The man dropped. Jonah grabbed the burning lantern and hurled it out into the dirt. A scream split the night, Eve's. She was in the loft, holding Jonah's revolver. Hands shaking, eyes burning. The man groaned. "Go on then," he spat. "Do it." Jonah met her eyes. "You don't owe him that." The fire crackled. Horses reared in panic. She lowered the gun. "No," she whispered. "But you do." Jonah nodded once, and ended it with a single shot. They buried him at dawn. No marker, just dust and silence. The windmill turned slow behind them, creaking like an old clock counting down forgiveness. Eve sat on the fence rail, arms wrapped around herself. The bruises on her wrists had started to fade. "You ever get tired of saving people?" she asked softly. Jonah shook his head. "Ain't what I do. I just stopped the bleeding long enough for em to walk away." She smiled faintly. "You didn't stop mine." "No," he said. "You did that yourself." The desert shimmered under the rising heat. For a while, neither spoke. Finally, she said, "I thought I was dead when you found me." Jonah looked at her, eyes dark as the well behind the barn. "I was too." By noon, the sky was pure fire. Jonah saddled a gentle mare for her, steady as truth. He handed her the reins. "There's a town 2 days east," he said. "You'll find a doctor, maybe peace, if you're lucky. And you? He smiled faintly. I've got fences to mend. Ghosts to argue with. She reached out, laid a hand over his chest, over the scar where his badge used to rest. Thank you, she whispered. He nodded. Don't thank me yet. You're the one ridin' into the light. She mounted, the windmill groaning behind them, not broken, just tired. She looked back once. You'll be all right someday, Jonah said. She smiled. That's good enough. He watched until she vanished into the shimmer of the horizon. The barn stood silent. The windmill turned slow, steady, alive. Jonah Hale sat on the porch, hat tilted low, breathing deep for the first time in years. Because in a world that only knew how to take, mercy, for once, had given something back. And somewhere between the sky and the dust, a new beginning waited, quiet, stubborn, and alive.